A Kazakh man was given a 3-year sentence in prison after he was found guilty of insulting Putin on Facebook. I'm not kidding. Now, this is the story of a 46-year-old man named Sanat Dozov. Now, Dozov was believed to have been arrested back in August after he had called Putin a fascist, as well as some other colorful insults. Now, look, for me, I believe Putin is a fascist, so it seems to fit, especially since this guy just got 3 years in prison for insulting him. Now, again, this brings me back to Turkey. Now, Turkey has a right-wing government under the control of President Erdogan. Now, Erdogan did the same thing. He shut down social media. He arrests people who make fun of him, right? Who insult him. Now, so Dozov was charged with, under Article 174 of the Kazakh Criminal Code. Now, Article 174 outlaws actions aimed at, quote, inciting social, national, generic, racial, class, or religious hatred, as well as the insult of a national honor and dignity or religious feelings of citizens, and propaganda of exclusivity, superiority, or inferiority of citizens on grounds of their relation to religion, class, national, generic, or racial assignment. So, look, that's a mouthful. As you can see, that's incredibly broad and also incredibly vague. And since it's so vague, Kazakhstan's justice system has essentially taken advantage of that to jail a lot of different people for saying things like, hey, Putin's a fascist, or I don't like what the government's doing right now. They're essentially jailing dissidents in Kazakhstan. And I've got a couple of examples. Now, this is brought by Bruce Panier. Now, he outlined the cases of sexual victims of Article 174. Commenting, listing those who have been detained and incarcerated on this charge, one could get the impression Article 174 is being used as a tool to remove inconvenient individuals. Now, to that I say, of course. Of course that's what they're doing. That's what every authoritarian regime does. That's what they do. Now, there is a slight wrinkle in the story that makes it even more interesting. And that's the fact that Kazakhstan and Russia are two separate countries. Now, they used to be part of the same bloc, but they're different. They've actually been different countries for over 25 years. But they still have so much, apparently Russia has still so much influence over that country that you as a citizen from that country can get put in prison for 3 years for insulting the leader of Russia. Jesus, man. That's amazing to me. Now, some of the examples of the stuff that Dozov had shared that got him in so much trouble was a meme that depicted the faces of Lenin, Stalin, and Putin. A few days later, earlier, he shared a news story from a Ukrainian site with a comment calling Putin, quote, the enemy and a terrorist. Dozov frequently also shared news stories and memes critical of Putin and Russian policy, particularly with regard to Ukraine and Syria. Now, the post referred in most stories about Dozov's sentencing was, according to Ratel.kz's images from December 1st, 2015, Dozov reportedly wrote, Putin is ruining the country, and Russians needed to stop fascism in their country. Sentiments that I absolutely agree with. So again, how did this guy get caught? Well, it turns out one of his Facebook friends reported him to the government. Ugh. Some friend, right? Now look, the reason that I'm bringing this story is not only that it's an abuse of human rights, okay, in an authoritarian regime, but also to remind people that this kind of stuff could happen here. Now, look, I know it might seem hyperbolic. Come on, Jeff. You don't really think that's actually going to happen. We have our First Amendment, right? That protects free speech. We do. But again, we've seen fascism crop up before. And right now, with the election of Donald Trump, that fascism is starting to come back. And that's very concerning. And I've got, look, a couple of things. You might think it's too much to tie this in, but maybe not. But I do think that Trump has shown some fascist tendencies when it comes to how he's treated the press. Now, for example, he's kicked different newspapers and different news organizations out of their rallies, calling out people, for example, like NBC reporter Katie Tour during one of these rallies and putting her life in jeopardy. I mean, imagine being called out as, oh, this reporter, this person is lying right now. That's all they do. They lie. Oh, really? Okay. You're doing that in front of a giant crowd of people who are very quick to anger. That's going to be an issue. That's going to threaten somebody's security. Okay? He also had the press sitting in a cage. If they dared step out of that cage, they'd end up getting punished. There is video of a journalist essentially getting chokeslammed by private security, by private Trump security. Not only that, but Donald Trump has said on occasion, many occasions, that he thinks that we need to rein in the freedom of the press. We need to rein in the press. We need to rein in free speech. He thinks that the press is too protected. In an interview with WFOR, CBS's Miami affiliate, Trump was asked if he believes that the First Amendment provides too much protection. He said, absolutely. He said he'd like to change the laws to make it easier to sue the media. And then, of course, he said our press is allowed to say whatever they want without any sort of recourse. Not a good thing. Look, first comes the lawsuits. Then, well, look, let's just say I don't want to see what comes after, okay? Freedom of the press and freedom of speech and expression are the cornerstones of our rights as Americans. Rights that old dictators tend to go after first. And Trump, look, whether or not he wants to be a dictator or not, I don't really know. I don't think he's smart enough. However, he does have a super thin skin. And because of that, he doesn't like it when the press goes after him, tells the truth about him, or mocks him at all. So to combat that, I do generally believe that he would do what he can to limit the press and limit free speech. And that's not without, I don't think that's out of the question. And that gets me really nervous. This stuff really happens, man. They really do clamp down on free speech. And it just happened in Kazakhstan, and it could definitely happen here. So let's fight it before it becomes too late. We need a free press that is devoted to facts and to calling out the people in power more than ever. We need to fight for this right, because they're all in jeopardy. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent, non-corporate media, go to our Patreon page and become a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation.